Morning, everybody, and thanks, Claire. And I would really urge you to fill out those surveys, because we're on a learning curve in terms of, from a national perspective, from Science Foundation Ireland's perspective, how best to get involved and to catalyse as much programming that's going to help the Irish public to start talking and debating science in the same way as they proudly talk about Oscar Wilde or other accomplishments that our country is well known for. So we will only ever be able to do that if we know everybody's input to that, the whole community, not just the way we think we could get it done, but rather how we all feel it could happen. So I'm just going to open this up one sec. Okay, well, as Claire introduced, I head up the education and public engagement side with Science Foundation Ireland, and without spending too much time on Science Foundation Ireland, just in case some of you don't know our work, I mean, I wouldn't have been hugely familiar with it when I came in, and that's a big job that we're doing in terms of engaging with the public, is trying to inform them of all the work that this government agency is involved in creating and the great impact that that's having for our society. So essentially what we are is the national agency for funding research in the areas of science and technology and engineering and maths. So we're involved in investing a significant amount of taxpayer money across a whole community of researchers and people and skills to deliver innovations, I suppose, for our country. As an organisation, we have 4 key goals, and without us going into them in too much detail, I only wanted to show you that we have 4, because one of them is that Ireland will have the most engaged and scientifically informed public. So 1 out of 4 goals is that we need to create more debate amongst the Irish public around science and its contribution to society. So it's that important to us, and I suppose what I want to try and get across to you today is, why is Science Foundation Ireland in this room? Why are we funding in this space at all? We did do a briefing session with on a co-call with the RT that's open at the moment last week. So if some of you were there, apologies, you'll be hearing this message again. But as I said earlier, we really want to drill home this message. So I'm delighted that you're able to hear our reasoning behind it again. What do we mean by an engaged public? Well, what we mean to Science Foundation Ireland, what that means to us is a general public who is confident and understands the role that science and tech makes to our lives, understands the difference that it makes to our society. And because of that, because they feel confident that they understand and connect with that, they also feel armed and part of the debate. So if there is something happening about overhead lines or the quality of water, they feel part of that discussion from the scientific side. They understand the reasoning behind it. It's not just the headline around charges, for instance. Because of that, we will have a peer group or an environment, parents, grandparents, who are confidently encouraging our young people to pursue this and be good at this. Because we are good at this in this country. We have some amazing global research that you're going to hear about this morning. But we have a real heritage in this area in the same way as we do in the sense of arts and sports that we would be more, I suppose, known for amongst the general public. But I suppose one of the most important reasons for me, the reason why I come from an engineering background originally, I was only just saying the reason why I fell into this is because I was sent out on public consultation days around engineering projects. And I spent all this time being trained as an engineer, and I developed designs. And the reason I went into it is I really wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help society. But it wasn't actually until I went out to talk to the public who had suffered from a flooding project that I realized the impact of my work. And it made me, I suppose, really want to put in a design that would alleviate flooding happening ever again in that area. And so public engagement is more of a driver on what we can do for society. And I often use this when I'm talking about what it is we do. This is the World Population Clock. Now, I've put it up there as a still, but you can go on and you can Google this or any search engine this, and you can watch how the world population is growing instantaneously. Does anyone ever look at this? No? You do? Okay, great. Because I'm a closet world population clock watcher. I do it nearly every morning. It becomes an obsession. But what I would say is I quite often go and talk to groups about how, we'll have some 8 billion people living on this planet by 2025. We've some major societal challenges to meet to be able to look after all those people. But when you talk about 8 billion, it's like talking about the nano world. It's very intangible. You can't really get a feel for it. But when you watch this on a daily basis, you can watch that always, without fail, the births are double the rate of deaths. And more often than not, they're 2.5 times the rate of death. So that means that the population of Galway, 250,000 people, are added to this planet every day. And our planet is staying the same size. So we have to up the production from our farms by 70% by 2050. We have to figure out how we're going to keep the people that are living longer healthy and good quality of lives. And actually the UN went out and they asked, so they're still asking people, you can go on and you can register your votes on this. They asked people, okay, all across the globe, what are the priorities that you see for your planet? This is your planet. What is it that you want out of it? And when you look at the things that are important to people, access to clean water, health, education, these are all things that we need society to be involved in the policy and debate around science and tech to make a difference in. So these are the kind of key drivers behind Science Foundation Ireland getting involved in catalysing and inspiring and guiding and funding in the areas of public engagement. And that is essentially what our background is to inspire, our mission rather, to catalyse, inspire and guide the best in engagement with science, tech, engineering and maths. So I told you about our, I suppose, overall goal, that Ireland would have the most engaged public. And we, I suppose, had to then set out, well, how are we going to measure that? We need some kind of measurement. So back in September, we launched the Science in Ireland Barometer, which was a measure of the Irish public. It's a really comprehensive survey. It went out to over 1,000 people doorstep survey, and then also supported by 8 really intensive focus groups all across the country, a national representative group, and asked them about, their values and their attitudes to where they felt science and tech contributed to their society. So Claire asked me to go through these kind of figures because these would inform maybe your documentary proposals. In particular, every 1 in 2 people in Ireland feel somewhat informed of science and tech. But more people are interested in finding out more. So there's people out there who feel disconnected and disengaged with it, but want to find out more. You can access all of this information on our website, so I'm not going to go through every single one of these facts on the slides, but what you'll see is predominantly nearly 9 out of 10 people in Ireland feel that investment in science and tech and engineering is important in terms of government investment. They believe in the prosperity of the country depends on it, their economic success. They feel it's really important to encourage young people to be involved in it and to study it at school, and in particular to increase the number of girls going into this area. But that's all well and good to have 8 or 9 out of 10 people saying that. But 7 out of 10 people are telling us, well, it's very important, but it's for the really intelligent person over here who's going to pursue it. Actually, it's not, I'm not in a position to be able to engage it. They feel it's too complex and too disassociated from their everyday lives to be engaged. So 71% of the Irish public told us that. We compared that with a couple of other nations kind of similar size, like Denmark and New Zealand. You can see up there New Zealand's at 35% of their public feel this is complex. So we've a good bit of work to do, and that's one of the reasons why we're getting engaged in the kind of broadcast and film side. Other things that the research told us was the types of population groups that don't engage with science. So in particular, traditionally, the people who feel confident in engaging in, the water cooler conversation around water quality, for instance, are your professionals, your ABC ones as they're defined. The lower socioeconomic groups, people from disadvantaged communities, feel very disconnected, and that's something we have to do something about. Also girls in particular are, when you measure it against guys, and if they're from a lower socioeconomic background, absolutely, definitely disconnected. But there is real potential in Ireland. In particular, from those lower socioeconomic backgrounds, we found that the age group of 30 to 55, that there's interest levels. There's people out there who felt like, well, I didn't get the opportunity when I was younger to be connected to this, and I'd love to know more, but I don't feel confident in my own knowledge to get more engaged. So there's a real potential group for us to work with, and that group are quite often parents. And actually, the key influencing factor to people's choices in colleges in lots of ways is the education of the mother, even more so than the dad and the family. So if you've got an early school leaving mother who is totally disconnected from science and tech, then that is going to perpetuate through their child's life in most cases. The final piece around our own research is we run a program which gives access to classrooms. So post-primary students get to meet people who live, breathe and work in the areas of science and tech and engineering. We bring them into the classrooms under the Smart Futures program. And the reason we do that is to try and alleviate the geek chic or the white coat scientist or the engineer wears a hard hat, but actually prove that we're normal people. There's too many of us to be classed into one pigeonhole place. We're just normal people who walk amongst you and who shop in the same shops and live the same lives. And actually, a lot of work's been done on measuring the perceptions of the classroom beforehand. So get the kids, this is in primary school, to draw a picture of what you think a scientist or an engineer is going to look like before they walk into the room. And it's always some crazy Einstein picture that's blowing something up. And then the person comes in, and afterwards they're asked to do a drawing, and it's this person. It's a person. It's just somebody like all of us. But an important part of this research is that 62% of Irish first-year college students tell us that the reason they're in that course is because they felt they would fit in. They had an identity with the people who do that course or with the types of careers that come out of that course. And so in one way, this is another thing that might inform you. You can't be what you can't see in lots of ways. And when, in engineering, it's 9% female. It's even less in computing. The life sciences is a bit better with girls doing it. So we have a lot to do to get role models visible to this generation. The Aspirations Research I'm not going to go into in detail this morning, but if you did want to check it out, it was run by King's College in London, but it was a real collective of public engagement professionals and academics all across the UK for examining the aspirations of 10 to 14-year-olds. And a big part of the recommendations or findings in that is that so one part of what Science Foundation Ireland has to do is try and ensure that we have good talent, that young people are encouraged to go into this. But actually a key factor to that is that they have science capital. And what that means is that, you have that water cooler or breakfast table discussions and people have that confidence level. So I'll talk about where the broadcast piece comes in there. But the two recommendations that came in terms of people's aspirations is we need to bust the brainy image. We need to make sure that people understand that all kinds of people come into science, tech and engineering. And also we need to build science capital. So increase the visibility and relevance of science in our everyday lives. I just thought I'd put this up here. It's a quote that I think explains, I suppose, what science capital is and what it means to Science Foundation Ireland and why we're using all different types of activities, but one being, film and broadcast media. Is that what it means is when families possess sizable science capital and take an active role in fostering their child's aspirations and future success, science careers appear to be more obvious and they're desirable for their children. In these families, science is reinforced in numerous subtle daily ways. It's just part of their everyday lives. It's not unusual. It's just a part of who we are and what we do. Families who are missing this, in the same way as we have real traditions, legal families go into law, political families go into politics, medical families go into medicine. But families who are missing that science capital are more likely to reinforce other career paths as more natural or thinkable. And if we can see that traditionally people in disadvantaged backgrounds are just not seeing the accessibility to science, we need to use all of our media to be able to make sure they know this is an option for them, an option that they can choose. Finally, a lot of research has been done by the Wellcome Trust in terms of how we access lower socioeconomic groups, so disadvantaged groups, and TV and film media came out as a big access point. There's a lot of cases these people don't have time to be attending nice festivals and nice events and stuff that we are otherwise funding. And so TV and film media is a big important part of how they get out there. So for Science Foundation Ireland, real priorities for us is to engage with that 35 to 55-year-old age group, the disadvantaged communities within our society, to try and increase the accessibility and identity for girls within science and tech, and make sure that the whole country, so in terms of public engagement, that it's not just the industry and university cluster areas that are getting access to these messages. Really quickly, we run a number of other programs on the ground. So the broadcast piece is just one piece. We would have a program called Discover Primary Science and Maths, which runs activities to support continuing, so development for teachers in primary schools to teach the science curriculum, because traditionally they're not from that background. We have the Smart Futures program that I already spoke about, role models going into the classroom. And also we fund Science Week, the national event that happens in November, but we're co-funders for Tech Week, Engineers Week and Maths Week. So you can see there's lots going on in terms of funding activity on the ground. So this activity is very much about placing, taking it away from that face-to-face piece, but rather getting it out to the broader reach, broader media. So finally, in terms of broadcast funding, where Science Foundation Ireland is we're very proud to be working with CÚRAM and the Galway Film Centre on this project. We also have a number of projects that have been funded through our annual funding call, the Discover Call, which opens in, it'll be April timeframe this year. We're supporting a TV3 series that will be coming out next year. Through that, we're also supporting a kids program, Insiders, through RT2, RT Junior. And then we also have a year's pilot underway with RTE, where we have a partnership around producing a number of programs. So we've done one call already for that, the first production of which will come out in April. And then we also have a live call at the moment. So it's on RT's commissioning site. You'll see there's a co-funding there with SFI. That's very much around the digital age piece. So you'll see we've kind of tried to get involved in as broad a spectrum as possible to catalyse getting more of this on screen. So finally, I'll finish with our slideshow here. There's a show reel, which will give you an insight as to what Science Foundation Ireland is doing in general.
space.
Pure spacers.
We're all about that space,
With no neighbor.
It gives you an idea of there's quite a lot of kids programming there happening. We really do need to engage with that 30 to 55-year-old age group, and this is an ideal opportunity to do so. So thank you. Cheers.